The 61st night. The following night Shahrazad said, I heard, O happy king, that the third dervish said to the girl, My lady, the 40 girls said, O our lord, the cause of our separation is in your hand. For God's sake, and for our sake, enjoy looking into all 99 chambers, but don't open the 100, lest we be separated. Be patient for 40 days, and we shall come back to you. Then one of them came up to me, embraced me, wept, and repeated the following verses. When she drew near to bid adieu, her heart, burning with love and longing in her breast, her tears and mine, wet pearls and cornelians, a necklace made for her, and came to rest. I bid her farewell, saying, By God, I will never open that door. Then the girls left, shaking at me admonishing fingers. When they departed, and I was left alone in the palace, I said to myself, By God, I will never open that door, and never cause our separation. Then I went and opened the first chamber, and when I entered, I found myself in a garden with streams, trees, and abundant fruits. It was a garden like paradise, with tall trees, intertwining branches, ripe fruits, singing birds, and running waters. Pleased with the sight, I walked through the trees, enjoying the perfume of the flowers and the songs of the birds, which hymned together the glory of the Almighty One. I saw apples like those of which the poet said, Two colors, in one apple joining, seemed two cheeks in the embrace of love's desire, two cheeks that, as from sleep they startled stood, one yellow turned with fright, one burnt with fire. And I saw pears, sweeter than sugar and rosewater, and more aromatic than musk and ambergris, and saw quinces like those of which the poet said, The quince has gathered every pleasing taste, thereby the queen of fruits, she has been crowned. Her taste is wine, a waft of musk her scent. Her hue is gold, her shape like the moon round. And I saw plums, so lovely that they dazzled the eyes like polished rubies. At last I went out of the garden and closed the door. The following day I opened another door, and when I entered, I found myself in a large field full of palm trees, and encircled by a running stream whose banks were covered with roses, jasmine, mignonettes, irises, daffodils, narcissus, violets, daisies, gilliflowers and lilies of the valley, and as the breeze blew over these aromatic plants, the whole field was filled with the sweet aroma. After I enjoyed and diverted myself there for a while, I went out and closed the door. Then I opened a third door, and found myself in a large hall covered with all kinds of colored marble, rare metals and precious stones, and hung with cages of aloe and sandalwood, full of all kinds of singing birds, such as nightingales, thrushes, pigeons, ringdoves, turtle-doves, silver-doves, and Nubian doves. There I enjoyed myself, felt happy and forgot my cares. Then I went to sleep, and in the morning I opened a fourth door, and found myself in a large hall, surrounded by 40 chambers, whose doors stood open. I entered every chamber, and found them full of jewels, such as pearls, emeralds, rubies, corals, and carbuncles, as well as gold and silver. I was amazed at such abundance, and said to myself, Such wealth could belong only to the greatest of kings, for no ordinary monarch could assemble such a fortune, not even if all the monarchs of the world joined together. I felt happy and carefree, saying to myself, I am the king of the age, for these jewels and this wealth are mine, and these girls belong to me, and to me alone. O my lady, I enjoyed myself in chamber after chamber, until 39 days had passed, and there remained only 1 day and 1 night. During that time, I had opened all 99 chambers, and there remained only the 100, the one the girls had cautioned me not to open. But morning overtook Shahrazad, and she lapsed into silence. Then Dinarzad said to her sister, "Sister, what an amazing and entertaining story." Shahrazad replied, "What is this, compared with what I shall tell you tomorrow night, if the king spares me and lets me live?" The 62nd night. The following night Shahrazad said, "I heard, O happy king, that the dervish said, 'There remained only that one chamber to complete the 100, and I began to feel obsessed and tempted with it, as Satan urged me to open it and cause my undoing. Even though there remained but one night for the appointed time for the girls to return and spend a whole year with me, I was no longer able to restrain myself, and, succumbing to the devil, at last opened the door, plated with gold. As soon as I entered, I was met with a perfume that, as I smelled it, sent me reeling to the floor and made me swoon for a long time. When I came to myself, I summoned my courage, and entered the chamber. I found the floor strewn with saffron, and saw lamps of gold and silver, fed with costly oils, and saw fragrant candles burning with aloes and ambergris. I also saw 2 incense burners, each as large as a kneading bowl, full of glowing embers, in which burned the incense of aloe, ambergris, musk, and frankincense. And as the incense burned, the smoke rose to blend with the odors of the candles, and the saffron, filling the chamber with perfume. O my lady, I then saw a deep black horse, as black as the darkest night, bridled and ready with a saddle of red gold, as it stood before 2 mangers of clear crystal, one filled with husked sesame, the other with rosewater scented with musk. When I saw the horse, I was exceedingly amazed, and said to myself, "There is something of great importance about this horse." Then the devil took hold of me again, and I took the horse from his place and led him outside the palace. I got on his back and tried to ride him, but he refused to move. I kicked him, but he did not stir. Then I took the whip and hit him angrily, and as soon as he felt the blow, he neighed with a sound like roaring thunder, and, spreading a pair of wings, flew up with me and disappeared in the sky. A while later he landed on the roof of another palace, and, throwing me off his back, lashed my face with his tail with a blow so hard that it gouged out my eye and made it roll on my cheek, leaving me one-eyed. I cried, "There is no power and no strength, save in God the Almighty, the Magnificent. I have taunted the one-eyed young men until I became one-eyed like them." I looked down from the terrace of the palace and saw again the 10 couches with the blue bedding, and realized that the palace was the same one that belonged to the 10 one-eyed young men who had admonished me and whose admonition I had refused to follow. I went down from the roof and sat down amid the couches, and hardly had I done so when I saw the young men and their old companion approaching. When they saw me, they cried, "You are not welcome or wanted here. By God, we will not let you stay. May you perish." I replied, "All I wanted to know was why you smeared your faces with blue and black soot." They said, "Each of us suffered the same misfortune as you did. We all lived the best of lives in bliss, feeding on chicken, sipping wine from crystal cups, resting on silk brocade, and sleeping on the breasts of fair women. We had to wait one more day to gain a year of pleasures, such food and drink and such entertainment. But because of our curious eyes, we lost our eyes, and now, as you see, we are left to mourn our misfortune." I said, "Do not blame me for what I did, for I've become like you. Indeed, I want you to bring me all 10 black trays to blacken my face," and I burst into bitter tears. They replied, by God, we will never harbor you, or let you stay with us. Get out of here, go to Baghdad, and find someone to help you there." When I saw that there was no avail against their harsh treatment, and when I recalled the miseries written on my forehead, how I killed the young man, and how I would be sitting pretty but for my curiosity, I could no longer stand it. I shaved off my beard and eyebrows, renounced everything, and roamed the world, a one-eyed dervish. Then God granted me safe passage, and I reached Baghdad on the evening of this very night. Here I met these two men standing at a loss, and I greeted them and said, I am a stranger. And they replied, We are strangers, like you. We formed an extraordinary group, for by coincidence all three of us happened to be blind in the right eye. This, my lady, was the cause of losing my eye and saving off my beard. It is related, O happy king, that after the girl heard the dervish's tale, she said to them, Stroke your heads and go your way. But they replied, By God, we will not go until we hear our companion's tales. Then, turning to the Caliph, Jafar and Masrur, the girl said, Tell us your tales. Jafar stood forth and said, O my lady, we are citizens of Mosul, who have come to your city for trade. When we arrived here, we took lodgings in a merchant's inn, and we traded and sold our goods. Tonight, a merchant of your city held a party, and invited all the merchants in the inn, including our group, to his house, where we had a good time, with choice wine, entertainment and singing girls. Then there was argument and yelling among some of the guests, and the prefect of police raided the place. Some of us were arrested, and some escaped. We were among those who escaped, and when we went to the inn, late at night, we found the door locked, not to be opened again till sunrise. We wandered helplessly, not knowing where to go, for fear that the police would catch up with us, arrest us, and humiliate us. God drove us to your house, and when we heard the beautiful singing and the sound of carousing, we knew that there was a company having a party inside, and said to ourselves that we would enter at your service and spend the rest of the night with you to entertain you and to make our pleasure complete. It pleased you to offer us your hospitality, and to be generous and kind. This was the cause of our coming to you. The dervishes said, O our lady and mistress, we wish you to grant us as a favor the lives of these three men, and to let us depart with gratitude. Looking at the entire group, the girl replied, I grant you your lives as a favor to all. When they were outside the house, the Caliph asked the dervishes, Men, where are you going, for it is still dark? They replied, By God, sire, we do not know where to go. He said, Come and sleep at our place. Then, turning to Jafar, the Caliph said, Take these men home with you for the night, and bring them before me early tomorrow morning, so that he may chronicle for each his adventure that we have heard tonight. Jafar did as the Caliph bade him, while the Caliph returned to his palace. But the Caliph was agitated and stayed awake, pondering the mishaps of the dervishes and how they had changed from being sons of kings to what they were now, and burning with curiosity to hear the stories of the flogged girl and the other with the two black bitches. He could not sleep a wink, and waited impatiently for the morning. No sooner had the day dawned than he sat on his throne, and when Jafar entered and kissed the ground before him, he said, This is no time for dawdling. Go and bring me the two ladies, so that I may hear the story of the two bitches, and bring the dervishes with you, yelling at him, Hurry! Jafar withdrew and came back soon with the three girls and the three dervishes. Then, placing the dervishes next to him and the girls behind a curtain, he said, Women, we forgive you because of your generosity and kindness to us. If you do not know who is the one sitting before you, I shall introduce him. You are in the presence of the seventh of the sons of Abbas al-Rashid, son of al-Mahdi, son of al-Hadi, and brother of al-Safa, son of Mansur. Take courage, be frank, and tell the truth and nothing but the truth, and do not lie, for you should be truthful even if the truth sends you to burning hell. Explain to the Caliph why you beat the two black bitches, why you weep after you beat them, and why they weep with you. But morning overtook Shahrazad, and she lapsed into silence. Then Dinarzad said, Sister, what a strange and amazing story. Shahrazad replied, What is this, compared with what I shall tell you tomorrow night, if the king spares me and lets me live? The 63rd night. The following night Shahrazad said, I heard, O happy king, that when the girl, who was the mistress of the house, heard what Jafar said to her on behalf of the commander of the faithful, she said, The tale of the first lady, the mistress of the house. My case is so strange and my tale is so amazing that were it engraved with needles at the corner of the eye, it would be a lesson for those who wish to consider. The two black bitches are my sisters by the same mother and father. These two girls, the one whose body bears the mask of the rod and the other who is the shopper, are sisters by another mother. When our father died and the inheritance was divided, the three of us lived with our mother, while the other two sisters lived with their own mother. After a while, our mother also died, leaving us 3,000 dinars, which we divided equally among ourselves. Since I was the youngest of the three, my two sisters prepared their dowries and got married before me. The husband of the eldest sister bought merchandise with his money and hers, and the two of them set out on their travels. They were absent for 5 years, during which time he threw away and wasted all her money. Then he deserted her, leaving her to wander alone in foreign lands, trying to find her way back home. After 5 years she returned to me, dressed like a beggar, in tattered clothes and a dirty old cloak. She was in a most miserable plight. When I saw her, I was stunned, and I asked her, Why are you in this condition? She replied, Words are useless, for the pen has brought to pass that which has been decreed. O commander of the faithful, I took her at once to the bath, dressed her with new clothes, prepared for her some broth, and gave her some wine to drink. I took care of her for a month, and then I said to her, Sister, you are the eldest, and you have now taken the place of our mother. You and I will share my wealth equally, for God has blessed my share of the inheritance, and I have made much money by spinning and producing silk. I treated her with the utmost kindness, and she lived with me for a whole year, during which time our minds were on our other sister. Shortly she too came home in a worse plight than the first. I treated her just as I had treated the other, clothing her and taking care of her. A little later they said to me, Sister, we would like to get married, for it is not fitting that we live without husbands. I replied, Sister, there is little good in marriage, for it is hard to find a good man. You got married, but nothing good came of it. Let us stay together and live by ourselves. But, O commander of the faithful, they did not listen to my advice and married again without my consent. This time I was obliged to provide them with dowries from my own pocket. Soon their husbands betrayed them. They took what they could, cleared out, and left their wives behind. My two sisters came to me with apologies, saying, Sister, although you are younger than the two of us in years, you are older in wisdom. We will never mention marriage again. Take us back, and we shall be your servants to earn our upkeep. I replied, Sister, none is dearer to me than you. I took them in and treated them even more generously than before. We spent the 3rd year together, and all that time my wealth kept increasing, and my circumstance kept getting better and better. One day, O commander of the faithful, I resolved to take my merchandise to Basra. I fitted a large ship and loaded it with merchandise, provisions, and other necessities. Then we set out, and for many days we sailed under a fair wind. Soon we discovered that we had strayed from our course, and for 20 days we were lost on the high seas. At the end of the 20th day, the lookout man, climbing the masthead, cried out, Good news! Then he joyfully came down, saying, I have seen what seems to be a city that looks like a fat pigeon. We were happy, and in less than an hour our ship entered the harbor, and I disembarked to visit the city. When I came to the gate, I saw people standing there with staves in their hands, but as I drew nearer, I saw that they had been turned by a curse into stone. I went into the city and saw that all the people in the shops had been turned into stone. Not one of them breathed or gave a sign of life. I walked through the streets and found out that the entire city had been turned into hard stone. When I came to the upper end of the city, I saw a door plated with red gold, draped with a silk curtain and hung with a lamp, saying to myself, "By God, this is strange. Can it be that there are human beings here?" I entered through the door and found myself in a hall that led to another, and then another, and as I kept going from hall to hall all alone, without meeting anyone, I became apprehensive. Then I entered the harem quarters, and found myself in an apartment wearing the royal insignia, and hung throughout with drapes of gold brocade. There I saw the queen, the king's wife, wearing a dress decorated with opulent pearls, each as big as hazelnut, and a crown studded with precious stones. But morning overtook Shahrazad, and she lapsed into silence. Then Dinarzad said to her sister, "Sister, what an entertaining story!" Shahrazad replied, "What is this, compared with what I shall tell you tomorrow night, if the king spares me and lets me live?" The 64th night. The following night Shahrazad said, "I heard, O king, that the girl who was the mistress of the house said to the caliph, 'O commander of the faithful, the queen wore a crown studded with all kinds of gems, and the apartment was spread with silk tapestries embroidered with gold. In the middle of the hall I saw an ivory bed plated with burnished gold, set with 2 bosses of green emeralds, and draped with a canopy-like net strung with pearls. I saw something glitter, sending rays through the net, and when I approached and put my head in, I saw there, O commander of the faithful, set on a pedestal, a gem as big as an ostrich egg, with an incandescent glow, and a brilliant light that dazzled the eyes. I also saw silk beddings and a silk coverlet, and beside the pillow I saw 2 lighted candles. But there was nobody in the bed. I marveled at the sight, and astonished to find the gem and the 2 lighted candles. I said to myself, 'Someone must have lighted these candles.' Then I proceeded to other rooms, and came to the kitchen, then the wine cellar, then the king's treasure chambers. I continued to explore the palace, going from room to room, absorbed in the wonderful sights and the amazing state of the city's inhabitants, until I forgot myself and was surprised by the night. I searched for the gate of the castle, but I lost my way and could not find it, and for a long time I wandered in the dark, without finding a place of refuge, save the canopied bed with the candles. I lay down there, covered myself with the coverlet, and tried to go to sleep, but I could not. At midnight I heard a sweet voice, chanting the Quran. I rose, glad to hear someone, and followed the voice, until I came to a chamber, whose door stood ajar. I peered through, and saw what looked like a place of worship and recitation, with a prayer niche lighted with hanging lamps and 2 candles. On a prayer carpet stood a section of the Quran, set on a stand, and on the carpet sat a handsome young man, reciting the holy book. I was amazed to find that this young man was the only one among the people of the city to have escaped the curse, and thought that there was a mystery behind this. I opened the door and, entering the chamber, greeted him and said, "Blessed be God, who has granted you to me, to be the cause of our deliverance and help our ship return to our native land. O holy man, by the holy book you are reciting, answer my questions." He looked at me with a smile and said, "O good woman, tell me first what caused you to come here, and I shall relate to you what happened to me and to the people of this city, and why they were cursed while I was not." I told him our story, and how our ship had strayed for 20 days. Then I questioned him again about the city and its people, and he replied, "O sister, be patient, and I shall tell you." Then he closed the Quran, put it aside, and seated me, "O commander of the faithful." But morning overtook Shahrazad, and Dinarzad said, "O sister, what a strange and entertaining story." Shahrazad replied, "Sister, what is this, compared with what I shall tell you tomorrow night, if the king spares me and lets me live. The 65th night. The following night Shahrazad said, It is related, O happy king, that a girl, who was the mistress of the house, said to the Caliph, O commander of the faithful, the young man placed the Quran in the prayer niche and seated me by his side. When I looked at him, I saw a face as beautiful as the full moon, like the one of whom the poet said, The stargazer one night charted the stars, and saw his fair form shining like a moon, who vied in brilliance with the hiding sun, and left in darkness the bewildered moon. It was a face on which the supreme God has bestowed the robe of beauty, which was embroidered with the grace of his perfect cheeks. He was like the one of whom the poet said, By his enchanting eyelids and his slender waist, by his beguiling eyes so keen, so fair, by his sharp glances and his tender sides, by his white forehead and his jet-black hair, by eyebrows that have robbed my eyes of sleep, and made me subject to their mighty will, by lovely sidelocks that coil, and charm, and all rejected lovers with their beauty kill, by the soft myrtle of his rosy cheeks, by his cornelian lips and mouths of pearls, which scents the fragrance of the honey bread, and the sweet wine which in its sweetness purls, by his graceful neck and his buff-like frame, which bears 2 pomegranates on the breast, by his charming tender and slender waist, and hips that quiver while they move or rest, by his soft silky skin and charming touch, and all the beauty that his own does seem, by his open hand and his truthful tongue, and noble pedigree and high esteem, by these I swear that his life-giving breath gives the musk being and perfumes the air, that the sun pales before him and the moon is nothing but a paring of his nail, I swear. O commander of the faithful, I looked at him and sighed, for he had captivated my heart. I said to him, O my dear lord, tell me the story of your city. He said, O woman of God, this city is the capital of my father, the king, whom you must have seen turned into black stone, inside this cursed palace, together with my mother the queen, whom you found inside the net. They and all the people of the city were Magians, who, instead of the omnipotent Lord, worshipped the fire, to which they prayed and by which they swore. My father, who had been blessed with me late in life, reared me in affluence, and I grew and throve. It happened that there lived with us a very old woman, who used to teach me the Quran, saying, You should worship none but the Almighty God. And I learned the Quran without telling my father or the rest of my family. One day we heard a mighty voice proclaiming, O people of this city, leave your fire worship, and worship the merciful God. But they refused to obey. A year later the voice cried out again, and did the same the following year. Suddenly, one morning, the city turned into stone, and none was saved except myself. Here I sit now, as you see, to worship God, but I have grown weary of loneliness, for there is none to keep me company. I said to him, for he had captured my heart and mastered my life and soul, Come with me to the city of Baghdad, for this girl standing before you is the head of her family, mistress over servants and slaves, and a businesswoman of considerable wealth, part of which is on the very ship that, after straying, now anchors outside your city, by the will of God who drove us here that I might meet you. I continued to press him, O commander of the faithful, until he consented. I spent that night, hardly believing my fortune, asleep at his feet. When morning dawned, we rose, and, taking from his father's treasure chambers whatever was light in weight and great in worth, the 2 of us went from the castle to the city, and found the captain, my sisters, and my servants looking for me. When they saw me, they were happy, and when I related to them the story of the young man and the city, they were amazed. But when my 2 sisters, these very bitches, saw the young man with me, they envied me, O commander of the faithful, and harbored ill feelings toward me. Then we went aboard, all of us feeling happy at our gain, most of all I, because of the young man, and sat waiting for the wind to blow before setting sail. But morning overtook Shahrazad, and she lapsed into silence. Then Dinarzad said, O sister, what a strange and entertaining story! Shahrazad replied, What is this, compared with what I shall tell you tomorrow, if the king spares me and lets me live?